Hello and welcome back to another video. In this problem, we're told that in this section we discussed examples of ordinary everyday functions. Population is a function of time, postage cost is a function of weight, and water temperature is a function of time. And we're asked to give 3 other examples of functions from everyday life that are described verbally. We're asked what can you say about the domain and range of each of these functions, and if possible, sketch a rough graph of the function. So for our first function, we're going to do the water level in the ocean. With the tides, this is constantly changing, so it is a function of time. What is the domain of this function? Well, you can take any range that you want, but perhaps the most helpful one is from the time at which it's low tide to the next time at which it's low tide. So we can just say low tide to the next low tide. And these are the times at which this is happening, not the actual height of the water, which is the range. And the range is going from the low tide water level to high tide, right? That's the range of values that we can take. And we're asked to sketch a rough graph. So maybe that would look something like this. We're starting at low tide, goes up, we hit high tide, and then it goes back down. And the cycle would repeat if we were looking at more time, but we're not. Next, we could do calories burned in a day. What would that look like? Well, again, that's a function of time, right? As the day progresses, the number is just going to keep going up. The domain, that is the time values we can take. That can just be 0 to 24 hours since we're just looking at one day. And the range is from 0 to whatever maximum value you end up reaching. The maximum calories, the final result, whatever you want to call it, 0 to whatever that is, right? Maybe 2,000 in a day, for example. And we want to sketch a rough graph of this, which we can do. We can go maybe slower as you're sleeping, and you wake up, you start to go about your day, you're burning more calories, then it sort of gets to the evening, you're doing less and less, and then slowly levels off as you're sleeping again and you're burning less calories, but you're always increasing. And then finally, we could do miles driven on a road trip. This is also a function of time, at least in the way we're thinking about it. You could also think about it in terms of gas burned or other things, but let's just do time. I think that's the easiest. The domain is the time values that we can take. So we start at 0, and the maximum value is just the length of the trip. The range is the actual miles that we could have at any given point, which again is going to start at 0 whenever we begin the trip, to the total distance traveled. Okay, and that would look something like this. We start going at a certain speed. Maybe there's a little variation in there, but we can't exactly see it. And let's say we stop for a little bit, and then we keep driving, and then maybe we stop for the night, and it's a long break where there's no increasing, and we wake up and we keep going again, stop again, keep going again, stop again, and so on. So here we have 3 functions of time, their respective domains, and what they might look like as a rough graph.